Kale had spent most of his life navigating the silent vastness of space, repairing ships that others abandoned or considered too dangerous. A human engineer among a fleet of salvage crews, he was used to working with alien technology, strange atmospheres, and unpredictable machinery. But nothing in his experience could have prepared him for what awaited him on the derelict cruiser drifting near the Glorath Nebula. The ship had been a curiosity. Its hull was scratched and scorched, drifting silently in zero gravity, the remnants of what had once been a proud vessel of the Lyran clans. Sensors showed minimal life readings, but Kale's gut told him that caution would not be enough. He docked carefully, securing the airlock, and activated his helmet lights. The metallic corridor inside was dark, shadows dancing along the walls as the ship creaked and groaned. As Kale moved deeper into the ship, he noticed the alien architecture. Tall, flowing shapes integrated with the hull, smooth surfaces punctuated by glowing panels that pulsed like the heartbeat of the vessel. He admired it quietly, noting the efficiency and elegance of the design while keeping an eye out for any life forms. That's when he heard the soft hiss, not the hiss of air escaping, but a sound that carried intent. A presence. Kale froze. His hand went to the sidearm strapped to his suit, though he knew it would be useless against whatever he was about to face. Slowly, he moved toward the source. The corridor opened into a small chamber. It was bright, more alive than the rest of the ship, with colors that seemed almost liquid, swirling across the walls in response to the subtle motions of something inside. And there she was, Lyra. Her skin shimmered in shades of violet and silver, soft and strong at the same time. Her eyes were sharp, piercing, and she was clearly unaware of him until the very last moment. That was when Kale realized he had walked into a private area. One where no outsider, or human, was meant to enter. Her reaction was immediate. In one fluid motion, she drew a blaster from a sleek holster at her hip, and Kale's own stomach turned cold. The weapon was not long, but it hummed with a charge that promised instant consequences. "You have violated the boundary," she said in her native tongue, though the translator embedded in his suit converted it instantly. Her voice was calm, controlled, but edged with anger. "Such an act cannot be forgiven without proper ceremony." Kale opened his mouth to explain, but words failed him. He had no idea that accidentally entering a private chamber could be considered such a severe offense. "What? I didn't mean," he began, but she cut him off with a sharp gesture of her hand. "No excuses." "You will accompany me to the council. The bond must be sealed," she said. Her stance was unwavering. "You will become the groom at the ceremonial union or face exile and dishonor." Kale's mind raced. He knew he had little choice. Every human protocol he had learned, every training he had received, could not prepare him for alien laws that demanded obedience simply for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Before he could react further, the chamber's doors hissed open and two armored guards entered, placing themselves on either side. They did not speak. Their presence alone communicated the seriousness of the situation. Kale realized this was not a joke, nor a misunderstanding that could be smoothed over with words. It was a test of survival, diplomacy, and quick thinking, all at once. Lyra's eyes met his. There was something in them that went beyond anger, a flicker of embarrassment, perhaps, or the weight of responsibility. He sensed that she did not enjoy this, that this ceremony was not born of desire but of cultural law. He took a deep breath. "Okay," he said. "I'll go with you, no trouble." The journey to the council chamber was tense. Kale observed everything. The flowing architecture, the strange, humming energy conduits, the ceremonial banners that hung from above, glowing with alien symbols he could not interpret. Lyra walked slightly ahead, her posture perfect, the weapon at her side now lowered but still close. Kale noticed the way her muscles tensed with every step, and he realized that, despite her warrior discipline, she was uncomfortable with the union as much as he was. When they arrived, the chamber was vast, filled with Lyran elders, politicians, and advisors. The air was thick with incense-like energy which reacted subtly to their emotions. Every eye was on him. Kale's heart pounded. "This human has violated our sacred chamber," Lyra said, her voice clear, projecting authority to all present. "He must be bonded to me through ceremony to honor our customs and prevent dishonor." Murmurs spread among the council. Some seemed intrigued, others skeptical. Kale wondered how much of this was truly law and how much was politics. One elder stepped forward, tall and robed in colors darker than the chamber itself. "The human may join the bond," the elder said, "but let it be known that he does so under our scrutiny. Any failure will reflect upon both species." Kale swallowed hard. "I understand," he said, keeping his voice calm. The ceremony began. Lyra stood beside him, her expression composed but distant. Kale noticed the intricate symbols etched into the floor, glowing softly. The ritual was not one of romance. It was a demonstration of respect, honor, and adherence to law. Still, he could feel the weight of every observer's gaze. As the ritual progressed, he realized that he needed more than compliance. He needed to earn her trust, however impossible that seemed. Lyra's eyes did not leave him, and Kale sensed her constant evaluation. She would not allow weakness, not in herself, not in him. Just as the final words of the ceremony were spoken, alarms rang out. Red lights flashed. The chamber doors shook under the impact of external force. The council gasped. Lyra's hand went to her blaster instantly, and Kale's mind raced. They were under attack. Guards shouted orders, scrambling to defend the chamber, but the attackers were skilled, moving with precision. Kale realized this was no coincidence. Someone had timed the attack to coincide with the ceremony. Whether it was a rival clan, an enemy of Lyra, or a political faction, he did not know, but the danger was immediate and real. Lyra turned to him, her violet eyes flashing. "You will need to move. Follow me," she said. Without waiting for permission, she led him through hidden corridors, back toward the docking bay. Kale followed, his mind working furiously. He had never been in combat like this, never needed to combine agility, intellect, and courage so quickly. The first shots rang out, echoing through the corridors. Kale ducked instinctively, using his engineering knowledge to manipulate doors and lights to create temporary cover. Lyra was beside him at every step, a disciplined warrior guiding him, her trust implicit though unspoken. As they reached the hangar, the attackers pursued, but Kale found himself reacting with a clarity he had never known. Every repair, every maneuver he had learned, every moment of improvisation in zero gravity now became survival. Together, he and Lyra evaded the attackers and secured a small vessel. When they launched into open space, the immediate threat behind them, Kale finally allowed himself a breath. Lyra's expression softened slightly, not from affection, but from relief. They were alive, but he knew this was only the beginning. "What now?" he asked quietly, still gripping the controls. Lyra looked at him, her eyes scanning the stars. "Now," she said, "we survive, and we find out why this was arranged to happen at all." Kale nodded. Somehow, he realized that this shotgun wedding was more than a cultural misunderstanding. It was a spark that could ignite something far larger, involving politics, clans, and species-wide consequences. And whether he liked it or not, he was now part of it. As the stars stretched past the viewport, Kale understood that his life had changed forever. The accidental violation that led to a forced marriage had thrust him into the heart of alien intrigue, and the days ahead would test every skill, every instinct, and every ounce of human ingenuity he possessed. And through it all, Lyra would be beside him, not as an enemy, not yet as an ally, but as the partner he had no choice but to respect. Kale and Lyra floated in the cockpit of the small starship, the hum of the engines filling the tense silence. Outside, the void stretched endlessly, dotted with the faint glimmer of distant stars. Kale's mind raced as he tried to piece together what had happened. The attack at the council had been precise and coordinated, far beyond the skills of random pirates or opportunistic scavengers. Someone had wanted the marriage to go wrong. Someone had wanted him dead. Lyra's hands rested lightly on the controls, her posture rigid with the discipline of a seasoned warrior. Though she had saved him more than once during their escape, Kale felt the weight of her distrust. She did not yet fully believe in him, nor in his ability to survive in situations as deadly as this. But she had no choice. He was now bound to her by ceremony and law, whether she liked it or not. Kale's human instincts told him he had to earn her trust before the next attack came. He studied the ship's controls, unfamiliar yet intuitive, and decided to help. "I think we can reroute power to the shield emitters," he suggested, pointing at a panel. Lyra raised an eyebrow but allowed him to work. Kale's hands flew over the alien interface, twisting circuits, sliding levers, and rerouting energy lines he barely understood. When he finished, the shield lights glowed stronger, shimmering across the hull. Lyra tested it immediately, weaving the ship through a field of floating debris. The shield held, absorbing impacts that would have ripped holes in the hull. For the first time, she gave him a subtle nod. "Not bad," she admitted, her voice calm but carrying a hint of approval. Kale smiled, though he knew it was only the beginning of the journey to earn her full respect. The ship moved into an uncharted asteroid field, a labyrinth of rocky towers that could hide them from the pursuers. Kale noticed subtle traces of scanning signals. Someone was tracking them. He tapped the console quickly. "I can mask our signature for a short time. It won't fool a full sensor sweep, but it might give us a chance to escape." Lyra considered his suggestion, then agreed, setting the ship into a stealth mode that reduced its detectability. Together, they moved through the dense field, dodging massive rocks and sudden debris with precise timing. As they traveled, Kale began asking questions, gently probing the history and culture of Lyra's people. He needed to understand her world if he wanted to survive and navigate the challenges ahead. Lyra was hesitant at first, revealing only what was necessary, speaking in clipped, measured sentences. Yet Kale's curiosity and calm persistence gradually coaxed more information from her. He learned about the clan hierarchies, their emphasis on honor, and the strict codes that governed even the smallest social interactions. Kale realized that these customs were not arbitrary. They had evolved over centuries, designed to keep a strong warrior culture intact. The marriage ceremony had not been about romance or desire. It was about maintaining respect, avoiding scandal, and preventing outsiders from undermining their society. Understanding this gave Kale a new perspective. If he wanted to survive and keep Lyra alive, he had to think beyond human ways. Hours passed, filled with silent flying and careful planning. Kale and Lyra shared no small talk, but there was a growing rhythm to their movements, an unspoken coordination that allowed them to react to hazards without verbal commands. A sense of mutual reliance began to form, fragile but noticeable. Kale saw it in Lyra's eyes, subtle flashes of acknowledgement whenever he performed a maneuver she had not expected. The first real challenge came when a group of attackers reappeared, closing fast. They were in sleek black fighters, glinting with energy weapons that could tear the hull of any standard ship. Lyra prepared to engage, but Kale had an idea. "If we can use the debris as cover and force them into a tight corridor, their weapons will overheat." She raised an eyebrow but allowed him to take the lead, trusting his instincts more than his confidence deserved. Kale maneuvered the ship through narrow gaps, weaving unpredictably, while Lyra fired carefully, disabling the engines of the attackers one by one. They were forced into a dead-end area, and Kale cut power to one of the ship's external systems, creating an electromagnetic pulse. The fighters' systems glitched, leaving them drifting helplessly. Lyra did not comment, but the faint lift of her lips was almost imperceptible. Kale had earned another ounce of respect. After the attack subsided, they found themselves near a derelict station on the edge of the asteroid field. Kale suggested they dock and hide while repairing minor hull damage. Lyra hesitated, wary of traps, but ultimately agreed. Inside the abandoned station, Kale worked quickly to patch the hull and reinforce the shields. He marveled at the alien technology, using parts and circuits he could barely name, improvising repairs that even Lyra admitted were clever. As they worked, the atmosphere between them began to shift. Lyra was no longer entirely the stoic warrior who had drawn her blaster the first time he saw her. She began sharing details of her training, stories of battles she had fought, and the challenges of maintaining honor in a galaxy full of deceit. Kale listened intently, asking questions that required thought and reflection. She saw that he was not merely a human caught in circumstance, but someone who could adapt, think, and even teach new approaches. Despite the chaos around them, small moments of trust emerged. Kale noticed Lyra hesitating before taking actions that could have endangered him, and he realized she was beginning to see him not just as an obligation, but as a partner in survival. It was a delicate balance. Neither of them wanted to admit it, but the bond between them was strengthening, not out of desire but necessity and shared experience. Their rest was brief. Even in the safety of the station, Kale could not shake the feeling that the attackers would return. He and Lyra mapped the possible entry points, set rudimentary traps, and reinforced the weaker corridors. Every moment was preparation, every decision a test. Kale had learned that survival in Lyra's world required constant vigilance. the combination of intelligence and courage, and the ability to anticipate threats no matter how unlikely they seemed. As the first artificial light of the station flickered against the metallic walls, Kale noticed Lyra standing near the viewport, watching the stars. "Do you ever wonder if humans are too soft for this galaxy?" she asked quietly, not looking at him. Kale paused before answering. "Maybe, but we're flexible, we adapt, and sometimes that's enough to surprise even the strongest warriors." She turned, her eyes meeting his for a brief second. Kale felt a flicker of recognition, a silent acknowledgement that he had proven himself more than a human caught in circumstance. He nodded, understanding that this was their unspoken agreement, survival through mutual respect. As they prepared to leave the station, a new danger appeared on the scanners. Another fleet of fighters, larger and more organized than before, was moving toward their location. Kale felt the familiar rush of adrenaline. This time there would be no easy tricks, no simple improvisation. They would have to fight, outthink, and outmaneuver an enemy that clearly anticipated their moves. Lyra stepped closer, her hand resting briefly on the console where Kale worked. "Ready yourself," she said softly, though her voice carried the steel of command. Kale met her gaze, feeling a strange sense of calm. They were partners now in every sense that mattered, bound by circumstance, law, and the survival instinct that had pushed them together. Together, they plotted a course through the asteroid field, weaving and twisting to avoid the attackers while preparing their defenses. Kale manipulated the ship's systems, rerouting energy and creating diversions. Lyra fired with precision, protecting their flank while guiding him through maneuvers that tested the limits of human reflexes. The battle was tense, calculated, and exhausting. After hours of pursuit, they finally managed to disable the lead attackers, forcing the rest to retreat. Both were battered and weary, but the unspoken truth was clear. They had survived because they relied on each other. Kale's ingenuity and Lyra's strength combined in ways neither had anticipated. As the stars stretched endlessly outside, Kale felt a new understanding. This forced union, born of accident and law, had begun as a source of tension and fear. But now it was becoming something more, a partnership based on trust, respect, and shared experience. Neither of them would admit it aloud, not yet, but the bond was undeniable. The journey ahead was uncertain, filled with political intrigue, rival factions, and threats from every corner of the galaxy. But for the first time, Kale realized that he and Lyra could face it together. The human engineer and the Lyran warrior had survived the first real test, and the lessons they had learned would shape every choice from this moment forward. As they moved deeper into uncharted space, Kale could feel the weight of what lay ahead. He was no longer merely a visitor in Lyra's world. He was a participant, a partner, and in ways he was only beginning to understand, a survivor who could hold his own among the stars. And Lyra, for all her discipline and honor, was beginning to see him as something more than a human who had stumbled into her life, someone capable, clever, and essential to whatever challenges awaited them next. Kale and Lyra traveled through the void, their small starship cutting silently through the distant stars. The previous battles had tested them in ways neither expected, but they had survived. That survival had begun to shift the dynamic between them, from obligation to cautious respect, and perhaps, though neither admitted it, something like trust. Yet the galaxy was not done testing them. Lyra's homeworld, a towering planet of violet deserts and crystalline mountains, loomed ahead. They had little time before the rival house, the same one that had orchestrated the attack at the council, could strike again. Kale understood that returning to her world was dangerous. He could no longer rely solely on speed and improvisation. They needed strategy, alliances, and cleverness, the tools humans had honed for centuries in their own way of survival. Lyra studied the planet's surface from the cockpit, her sharp eyes catching patterns Kale could not see. "The council expects us," she said, voice low but firm. "They will scrutinize every action, every word. Any misstep could be disastrous. The rival house will be waiting, and they will not hesitate to strike." Kale nodded. "Then we need to plan every step, every entrance, every signal. We can't just rely on luck this time." He pulled up maps and schematics on the console, tracing possible routes, escape paths, and hidden chambers. Lyra leaned over, watching him work, occasionally pointing out minor flaws he had missed. He noticed that she no longer questioned his ideas outright. Instead, she considered them. That subtle change told him everything he needed to know. She had begun to respect his human ingenuity. When they finally landed near the council chambers, the tension was palpable. The alien guards eyed Kale with suspicion, whispering among themselves, while Lyra's people regarded him as a necessary stranger. Someone bound to her by law, yes, but still human, still unpredictable. Kale felt the weight of every stare. This was no longer a personal test. It was political, cultural, and possibly life-threatening. Inside the council hall, the room stretched high above them, decorated with glowing banners and symbols etched into crystal walls. Elders and officials had already gathered, their gazes sharp. Whispers rippled across the chamber as Kale stepped forward with Lyra. He had learned to maintain composure in the face of danger, but he could feel the scrutiny pressing down on him. The council convened, and Lyra spoke first, her voice calm yet commanding. "The human has been bonded to me through ceremony. We have survived attacks meant to disrupt this process. But the threats are not over. The rival house seeks to manipulate and harm us both." Murmurs spread across the chamber. One elder, a tall figure robed in dark crystal fibers, stepped forward. "Prove it. If your claim is true, show us the evidence before accusations turn this union into chaos." Kale felt a surge of urgency. They had little time to act before the rival house could create a fatal incident. Drawing on what he had learned from the attackers' previous moves, Kale suggested a controlled demonstration. He led the council to a side chamber filled with the tools of their society: energy conduits, defensive systems, and machinery unique to Lyra's culture. He quickly set up a scenario, showing how an incoming strike from the rival faction's ships could be traced, intercepted, and neutralized using methods that combined human improvisation and Lyra's cultural technology. The council watched in astonishment as Kale rerouted power, triggered countermeasures, and displayed a level of cleverness few humans had ever demonstrated in their eyes. Lyra's face remained calm, but Kale could see the faint glimmer of pride. She had trained to trust only warriors like herself. Now, a human had shown that ingenuity and courage could match, or even surpass, their expectations. Just as the demonstration concluded, alarms rang through the council chamber. The rival house had made their move, striking during the demonstration to create maximum chaos. Assassins materialized, moving with deadly precision, aiming to kill Lyra and destabilize the council. Kale reacted instantly. He ducked behind control panels, rerouted energy conduits to create temporary barriers, and triggered environmental controls that sent smoke and light scattering through the hall. Lyra moved beside him, her weapons firing with expert accuracy. Kale's human tactics complemented her combat skills perfectly. They forced the assassins into choke points, neutralizing them one by one without harming the council or the innocent staff. Each move was calculated, combining Kale's ingenuity with Lyra's strength and precision. The battle was intense, a mixture of alien martial skill and human improvisation. Kale felt a surge of confidence as he realized that their partnership, born of obligation, had become a true alliance. Together, they had adapted, overcome, and survived in a way neither could have done alone. When the last of the attackers fell, silence returned to the chamber. The council members stared at Kale, then at Lyra, then at both of them together. Lyra spoke, her voice carrying authority and weight. "This human has proven himself. He is no longer an outsider. He is my partner in survival and in honor." A murmur of approval spread through the council. The elders conferred quietly, then one spoke aloud. "The evidence is clear. The human has acted with courage, intelligence, and respect for our customs. He shall be recognized not only as bonded to Lyra, but as a worthy ally to our people." Kale felt a strange mixture of relief and pride. The forced union that had begun as a misunderstanding was no longer just a legal obligation. It had evolved into something meaningful, a partnership recognized by both human and alien societies. Lyra's eyes met his, softer now, though still guarded. "We have survived the first trial," she said, "but the galaxy is far from safe. We must remain vigilant." Kale nodded. "And we will face it together," he replied. In the days that followed, Kale and Lyra worked to stabilize her clan's political environment. They uncovered the rival house's broader scheme, plots designed to destabilize multiple factions, exploit weaknesses, and manipulate interstellar relations. Using Kale's ingenuity and Lyra's authority, they prevented several crises before they could escalate, outmaneuvering enemies who underestimated a human's adaptability. As they traveled between council sessions, Kale learned more about Lyra's culture, and she began to appreciate human perspectives. Their discussions shifted from tactical to philosophical, touching on concepts of honor, loyalty, and duty. Kale shared stories of human history, of innovation in adversity, of unity in the face of challenge. Lyra, in turn, shared tales of her people's trials and triumphs. Through these exchanges, mutual respect deepened. They were no longer simply bonded by ceremony. They were bonded by choice, though unspoken. Kale had learned to anticipate Lyra's strategies, and she had begun to trust his instincts in moments of crisis. Their synergy became a quiet force, one that strengthened with each challenge they faced. Months passed, and the galaxy remained tense but more stable. The rival house had been exposed, their influence diminished. Kale and Lyra had become symbols of unity between humans and Lyran warriors. Stories spread of the human who had survived the council's trials and fought alongside a warrior princess to protect her people. During a final council gathering, Lyra stood beside Kale as she addressed the elders. "This human arrived here by accident," she said, her voice resonant. "But he has proven that honor, courage, and ingenuity know no species. We are stronger together than apart." The council erupted in approval. Kale felt the weight of the moment, realizing that the life-altering event that had begun with a forced marriage had transformed into something far greater, a partnership that bridged worlds, cultures, and expectations. As the ceremony concluded, Lyra turned to him. "You've changed the way our people see humans," she said softly, "and I am beginning to see humans differently too." Kale smiled, a mixture of relief and quiet pride. "And you've changed the way I see your people," he replied. "We make a good team." Together they left the council hall, walking side by side through corridors that had once seemed alien and hostile. Now every step was a reminder that survival had forged an unbreakable bond, and that the future, though uncertain, could be faced together. Their ship awaited, engines humming softly, ready to carry them beyond the stars. Kale and Lyra had begun their journey as strangers forced into union, tested by danger and united by necessity. But they emerged not merely as allies, but as partners in a galaxy full of possibilities, ready to face whatever challenges the stars might throw their way. As they soared into the void once more, Kale glanced at Lyra. She no longer held the weapon with constant suspicion. Instead, she moved with confidence, an equal partner. And in that moment, he understood the truth of the human-foreign alliance. Survival was not just about strength or skill. It was about trust, respect, and the courage to face the unknown together. The galaxy stretched ahead, infinite and unpredictable, but Kale no longer felt fear. With Lyra by his side, they were ready for anything. And so their story continued. A human engineer and a Lyran warrior, bound by law, tested by adversity, and united by a partnership that would change both their worlds forever.